What's going on YouTube? It's Deej, back again with another video, and today coming at you with my updated 2023 safety rankings as we move closer to the 2023 NFL Draft. Hopefully you guys are excited for the draft, and hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to hit that like button if you do. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and looking for more football coverage, more draft content. We're going to be live day 1 and day 2 of the NFL Draft, so I hope to have you join us for that. And of course, most importantly, leave your thoughts down below. How do you rank this safety class 1 through 5, 1 through 10? How adventurous do you want to get there? That's up to you. And then, of course, if you have any tiers you want to break those guys up with, love to hear how you break up these safeties down below in the comments section. I have to start by saying this is not a very good safety class. It's definitely one of the weaker position groups. So after we leave this first page in my top 3 tiers, then we're going to get a continuation of tier 3 if my memory serves on the next page. Yeah, it gets rough quick. So I do think these guys are going to go relatively early just because, there's not a whole lot of depth to be had in this year's class. But all right, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about Brian Branch. If you've been around the channel any length of time, you know I love me some Brian Branch. He's definitely one of my guys in this year's class. And I mean, he's high on a lot of people's boards, and he's probably a consensus safety one. So I'm not saying anything that's totally earth-shattering here, but only 4 missed tackles during his time at Alabama. Great in man, great in zone. I think there's some blitzing upside, whether he's playing the nickel, and to that point. I legitimately think he can play all 5, positions in the secondary: strong, free, nickel, or either outside corner spots. I think he's that good and that versatile, and especially in man coverage. That's where there's some sneaky upside. Granted, at 4'5" and 6 foot, 6'1", you don't really think of him as someone who's probably going to be an outside corner. I think he plays faster than that 4'5", 140 time. But really, this comes down to everything else across the board. Pretty good athleticism and just the tape. This guy plays faster than just about everyone else at the college level. Which, when you see that, it tends to then transfer to the NFL level, and you're like, oh yeah, well we all knew that guy was going to be special. So yeah, even without the absolute most insane right home, tell mom all about it athleticism, the guy's just an instinctive and sound football player that you can do a lot of different things with. So I love Brian Branch, and this whole draft cycle I've been saying, Brian Branch, the Jags, that's my favorite of any player to team draft picks, and I just pray if there's one wish I could have happen and come true in the NFL Draft, it would be that. Then tier 2, there's Antonio Johnson. So different build than that of Brian Branch, where Branch is sub 6 foot and 190 pounds. Antonio Johnson brings a whole lot more length to the table. Texas A&M preseason had him listed at 6'3" and right at 200 pounds. Then he goes to the combine. It's really 6'2", right at 200 pounds still though. Arm length in the 68th percentile. So he just brings a different game. 4'5", 240. I don't think it's too bad, especially given his size. And he's another one of these safeties that, when I said Branch can play all 5 positions, I am thinking him first and foremost as that nickel corner strong safety hybrid. Same thing should be true about Antonio Johnson. We're seeing Richie Grant's kind of playing that in Atlanta. Jeremy Chinn's playing that now in Carolina. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's one of the first people that comes to mind with that. Antoine Winfield Jr.'s done it in the past. So it's becoming a more and more coveted and important position. So I lump them in with the safeties, but you could also classify them as nickel corners, but even more so than Branch, I think safety is probably the true position for Johnson, whether it's strong safety or that nickel type of hybrid, closer to what Chinn and Richie Grant are doing, but has the size and really sure tackler and flies the ball carrier, great in the box. I wish there was a little bit more playmaking production, a little bit more playmaking ability when you see him on tape. Not a guy who generates a whole lot of turnovers and is flying around and causing a whole lot of havoc there. But when the play's in front of him and it's in the run game, or it's going to rally to a tackle, this guy flies the ball carrier. He has a sound tackler and he brings a ton of size and solid athleticism given his frame. So I think there's some upside for him to be a better playmaker at the NFL level. But it was the one thing that I was like, wish we could have seen a little bit more of that out of Antonio Johnson. And then Sidney Brown is my, tier 3, number 3 safety. So again, we are day crescendoing pretty fast here down the board. Sidney Brown, not even close. Most athletic safety in the class. Low 4.4 speed, right around 6 foot, 200-ish pounds, and dude, he plays hard coming downhill. When he hits you, you feel it. But also one of the best, graded coverage safeties in this year's class, using PFF's data there. I think a lot of that is limiting his work to coverage, inside the box. He's a guy that little short, but I could see his athleticism kind of making up for it and his tenacity making up for it, becoming a solid tight end coverage specialist. And I definitely think he can keep up with running backs coming to the backfield. If there was anything I wish I could watch, it's some one-on-ones between Chase and Sidney Brown, in the pass catching drills, like, Chase running a Texas route against Sidney. How do they hold up? Sure, there's plenty of afternoons in the backyard where that definitely played suit. But yeah, most twitchy athlete in the class, and also a guy who had a ton of production during his time at Illinois. A defense that's really come a long way over the last few seasons. And to me, profiles really, really well as a rotating downhill strong safety. There is some upside maybe with him being a split safety guy as well. But I think he's best when working down towards the line of scrimmage with some sneaky upside given his athletic ability. All right, let's move on to tier number 4. So there is no tier 3 continued, tier 4. And honestly, Jamie Robinson probably would have been just a smidge ahead of Sidney Brown, if not for some of the athletic testing that we saw from Robinson. But let me talk about what I do like about Robinson. To me, he's probably the most well-rounded of any of the safeties in this year's class, right there with Brian Branch. If he's not one, then he's probably 2. But I think you look at his snap alignment this last year at Florida State, and it's almost perfectly even across the board between free, strong, and nickel. Sound tackler, impact player in the coverage department as well. I think the tape says this is one of the best safeties in this year's draft. 5'11", 191, not necessarily top-end stuff there. And then even looking at, the 40s, 41st percentile, broad jumps, 21st percentile, 10-yard split, sub 50 percentile, so not really great. The 3-cone's kind of where he gets buoyed up this board, because you look at the 3-cone versus that of Jordan Battle and, J.L. Skinner, and then Christopher Smith, who's going to be on the next screen. That's where it's like, okay, at least he can turn and change and go make a play on a ball carrier. He can plant that foot and go change his direction better than some of these other guys. So that's what gave him the nudge. That and the fact that I do think he is really well-rounded and can be a true difference maker on the defensive side of the ball, considering you can move him around the field so much. I love DBs that you can line up anywhere, and Jamie Robinson is definitely one of those types of players, and that's why he's been one of my guys throughout the cycle. So then next up is Jordan Battle, continuing tier 4 here. And, another guy who I've been really high on throughout this entire process. I've kind of loosely comped him to Xavier McKinney a number of times, and he actually ran just a little bit faster than Jordan Battle at the combine, so that made me feel a little bit better. I think a really instinctual and really sound football player could be a split safety guy, but I think best suited to be this strong safety, box safety type, just given he doesn't have a whole lot of high-end athleticism. So I mentioned the 40, 4.55 is a little bit better, but then I look at the 3-cone, and that's 7th percentile. And I was trying to find Xavier McKinney's, and he did not actually participate in that at the combine, so I can't really compare that. But yeah, 7.31 3-cone, that is not ideal. And then, kind of put that into context. Andre Carter, who's 6'6", 260 something at edge, ran a 6.97 3-cone. So when that big lumbersome edge rusher is turning a corner faster than, Jordan Battle, not necessarily great. It makes me a little worried about his ability to plant a foot, change the direction, go break on a ball carrier, go break on a pass catcher, that sort of stuff. Break on the football even. But I just trust his instincts. He's always in the right place at the right time, and as dumb as that sounds, he's never out of position. And I think that goes a long way, and I think there's a lot of defensive-minded head coaches and maybe some teams with DCs that have a heavy hand in what they do on draft night. They're like, that's a good football player. Please give me that good football player, and I'll make the rest work. So I think you're getting a sound tackler, pretty good player in coverage, does leave a lot to be desired athletically speaking. But other than that, there's a lot to be excited about when you just do like a film study on Jordan Battle. And then we get to Jartavius Martin, and I don't want to say it's the complete opposite, because he's been a good football player. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Sidney Brown's probably been the better of the 2 guys we talked about coming from Illinois. But nevertheless, Jartavius Martin has still been productive. And I'm cheating the rules a little bit, because in my cornerback rankings, I was like, man, I kind of wish I put Jartavius Martin over Jacorian Bennett. But they're both these crazy athletes that play nickel corner to safety. But with Jartavius Martin, I decided to sneak him in with the safeties because I did want to talk about him. And 177 snaps this year at deep safety. And I don't want to give away too much of my upcoming mock draft this weekend, but I almost wonder if that could be something he does more of at the NFL level. Also a 91 run defense grade using PFF's data. So this is a guy that when working downhill can become a force there. Senior, so you're talking about a guy with plenty of college experience, 5'11", 194, not the biggest, so it may not be like, you think of JL Skinner, you're like, that's a box safety. Jartavius Martin, not quite, that frame, but I do think he could be someone that's great playing crashing downhill, and maybe he has that, nickel strong safety type, but I almost wonder, given the athleticism, if he could play free, because, you look at his testing numbers, and 4.46 40 isn't like off the charts, but 64th percentile is one of the best that we have in this class, unfortunately. 98th percentile with a 44-inch vertical, and then a broad jump at 95th percentile. And that to me says, single high free safety, like if, let's say, the New England Patriots maybe draft him in the 3rd round, wink, wink. Could he be someone that, with that change of direction and that explosiveness, that first step, could make up for where he's, solid straight line fast, not great? I think that maybe could be in the cards here. So I wanted to include him in this video because I didn't get to talk about him with corners, and also we were kind of running out of solid names to talk about here pretty quick in the safety class. So whether it's this nickel, safety hybrid, or maybe some upside as a free safety, I really do like Jartavius Martin from that athlete standpoint. I think he can be coached up. I'm just really interested to see what his role ends up being at the NFL level. Then Ronnie Hickman. I mean, he's a really good football player too, and he's coming off his best season at the NFL level, which is a big reason why he's even on this list. He was not, he might have been an honorable mention my way too early safety rankings video, but was not one of the first honorable mentions. But coverage grade right around 89 using PFF's numbers again, 75.3 run defense grade, and his overall grade goes from 62.5 to 67.9 to 84.8. So you're just talking about steady improvement. A guy with a solid frame, 6 foot, 203 pounds, but has super long arms, and that's really what comes into play here. And that could make a difference in the tackling department for sure. 91st percentile in the arm length at 33 inches. So talking about a guy who long arms helps in the tackling department, but also punching a potential target away from a wide receiver, hitting his hand in the breadbasket, so to speak. So again, we're running out of safeties pretty quick, so I don't love that this is kind of a one-year wonder. This last year was the kind of breakout year at Ohio State. Is that a fluke, or was that just variance kind of giving him some positive results? Maybe, but again, we're kind of running out of options here. So a guy that has solid size, the arm length is really the main calling card. And then you look at a snap alignment, 379 snaps in the box, 203 over top, 164 in the nickel. Again, I like guys that can move all over the field, and Ronnie Hickman definitely is one of those dudes. And then JL Skinner at 8. So we've talked about, JL Skinner. He looks like, an NFL box safety. And there's no doubt about that. But I do want to talk about his coverage ability, because I think that's kind of one of the more overlooked parts of his game. But I think just because he's big, that doesn't mean that he is, he's a brick or anything like that, and he can't turn and change and move across the field. 83.3 coverage grade. And I think, honestly, he's kind of like poor man's Jeremy Chin, because you're looking at 6'4", 209, and I think you play him in the box and you put that frame at the line of scrimmage. You don't want to run at him, so he'll become a solid run defender and a part of your run defense game in general, because he'll be right there at the line of scrimmage in the first, defensive back there to make a play. And then his coverage upside, like again, he's been solid in both man and zone at Boise State. 83.3 coverage grade using PFF's numbers once more. So I think this guy as that, Jeremy Chin, Richie Grant role, where he's a box safety, nickel corner, play him close to the line of scrimmage, maybe even use him as a blitzer. I mean, I don't even know what a quarterback's supposed to do with 6'4", 209 coming screaming in your face. I'd almost just rather not see it, right? Hitting from the blind side. I don't want to know what that looks like. But yeah, I think you're getting an impact player pretty much right away in the run defense game with some underrated coverage ability, and that's why I wanted to put him in my top 10. And if he could do a little bit more over the top, and if he wasn't coming from Boise State, he might be a little bit higher. But the guys ahead of him, ACC, SEC, Big Ten. So the small school factor here is part of why, as I'm, hyping him up so much, felt like I had to explain why he's at 8 and then Tier 5, which Tier 5, just for those who were wondering, that's basically just like my honorable mentions based off of how I used to do things. But honorable mentions, these guys could go anywhere from round 3 to day 3. I could see Skinner being someone who goes round 3, and I could also see Anthony Johnson Jr. being someone who could be, a round 3 guy coming from Iowa State. played 3 years as a solid football player, 70-plus grades all 3 seasons, over the last 3 seasons at least, with the Cyclones. Redshirt senior, so a little bit on the older side, 6 foot, 205 pounds, so solid frame. This might come down to how you feel about him being an older prospect, but once you get into like day 2 of the draft, I don't think it's, too terrible. And then the main thing I want to talk about here is this guy's a former corner, 2021, 572 snaps outside. 2020, 610 snaps out wide. Again, this is a former cornerback that we're talking about that has since moved to play safety. Anytime that happens, you pique my interest, whether it's at the NFL level, right, or if it's someone who's doing it at the college level. So with that coverage background, then used as a combination of a slot corner this year, almost 250 snaps at the nickel, and then a little more than 250 snaps over the top. Like I'm not saying he's gonna be Devin McCourty, but that's kind of what that transition is making me think of. And also, let's see, former corners turned safety, Charles Woodson, right? Kareem Jackson even added some years onto his career because of that move at the position. So could Anthony Johnson Jr. at the NFL level be better off at safety? I'd be interested to see if that's the case, or if he becomes, a nickel corner, and it's a little bit of a mix of both, safety and the corner background. Again, he played a lot of nickel last year at Iowa State, while also playing some free safety. And again, we're kind of light on some safety prospects here, so a team that's looking to add that over-the-top free safety guy, I can see where they're willing to take a shot on him. And again, the redshirt senior thing, I could see where that works in his favor, because the team's like, hey, he's NFL ready, or teams are like, well, 4 years of playing corner, and now 1 year where he's a little bit of a hybrid, and he's older, we're good, we'll pass. So I can see it kind of working both ways. All right, Christopher Smith comes in at number 10, and man, Christopher Smith, the player I like a lot. And you're talking about the guy who played over-the-top free safety for the best defense in college football history in 2021, and then the 2022 Bulldogs defense that is not too far off. But then you're talking about sub 6 foot, 192 pounds, 4.6 240, and a 2 percentile 3-cone at 7.45. And it feels like he plays so much faster and can change and plant the back foot, make a break on a ball. But, the athletic testing would say otherwise. And then 21st percentile broad jump, 33rd percentile bench, the 10-yard split's really the one number that's solid here, 61st percentile 10-yard split. So maybe there's more acceleration than I want to give him credit for, but the change of direction stuff for a guy who I figure and profiled as someone who's going to be an NFL over-the-top, single-high free safety, yikes. 5'11", 192. I don't know if he's really going to be a box safety at the next level. So, yeah, the athletic testing really soured me on Chris Smith. I think he'll still get drafted somewhere day 3 just because he was a pivotal player and a good player for that Georgia defense. But for him to overcome some of those super low-end athletic numbers, he'll be an outlier based off those testing numbers, which gives me great pause. Brandon Joseph, a guy who transferred from Northwestern to Notre Dame, which, by the way, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so had to put that out there, potential biases inbound. But I think the biggest thing I noticed from him after he left Northwestern was he just became so much sure of a tackler. He took some sloppy routes and wasn't always the most polished when it comes to finishing tackles at Northwestern. Clean that up a little bit, and he's another one of these guys where I was like, dude, over the top free safety, feels like he covers a ton of ground and just sees the ball in the air, goes, breaks, and makes a play. But then I see the athletic testing again. 30th percentile 40 at 4.62, 3-cone at 34th percentile. Again, the 10-yard split, maybe the one saving grace here at 61st percentile, 1.56. So again, maybe I'm not putting enough stock into that 10-yard split, and there's more acceleration than I'm giving him credit for. But yeah, that change of direction, it feels like he plays with so much more than just a 7.08 time, and that's what he ran at the combine too. It's not even pro day, maybe it's wrong. No, I mean it's going to be as accurate as we get. So that's really disappointing. Another guy that got kind of a soured opinion based off of the testing numbers. But if you're going off the tape, I think he's gotten better after the transfer from Northwestern to Notre Dame, cleaned up his tackling, and I think he's a player worth taking a shot on day 3. But I just don't know if I could validate it or warrant a team doing it before then. And then we get Jair Brown. He's a guy who a lot of people are excited about, and he has high-end athleticism. So again, in a safety class that doesn't have a whole lot of freaky athletes, I think Jair Brown is a little bit of an exception there. And he also has a ton, and I mean a ton, of ball production during his time at Penn State. I think it was 10 interceptions, if my memory serves, over the last 2 years with the Nittany Lions. And then you're talking about 5'11", north of 200 pounds, so not the smallest of the guys that we've talked about in today's video. But can that playmaking continue over the next level? I don't think he's the best tackler, and I don't think he always takes the best routes, so he is kind of giving me shades of Andre Cisco. And, you know, Cisco had his fans coming out of Syracuse, and then there were those who were like, yeah, if you can't tackle, they're not going to be coaches that want to put you on the field. And I worry that might be the case here with Jair Brown. So this is kind of the ultimate boomer bust prospect. So to be honest, like, maybe I kind of wish I put him at 10 and then slotted down Smith and Joseph down one more spot, because if it's day 3, I'd almost just want to see if that ball production and the playmaking skills carry over for Brown versus Chris Smith and Joseph, who played like that but didn't test like that. So I don't know. Yeah, once we get to the end of these safeties, like, take your pick. I really don't feel great about any of them, but this is not a great safety class, and I gave you 12 names, so hopefully that's good for something. But let me hear your list down below in the comment section. How would you rank these guys, 1 through 5, 1 through 10, or if you go 1 through 12 like I did, let me hear your list down below. Is there anybody that I didn't have on this list that you think should be included? Again, Jacorian Bennett could be this, you know, nickel corner safety hybrid, but I talked about him in the corner video, so that's why I had Jartavius Martin kind of in here, but not him. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new and looking for more football content, and again, leave your safety rankings down below in the comment section. Maybe some good fits for all these safety prospects down below as well. But that's going to do it for me. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teej, and I am signing off.